It's interesting to note that hypocrites always tend to have a beam in their eye and be completely oblivious to it, and yet still have the audacity to point out a small speck in someone else's eye. Jesus said, "And why beholdest thou the mote that is in thy brother's eye, but considerest not the beam that is in thine own eye? Or how wilt thou say to thy brother, Let me pull out the mote out of thine eye, and behold, a beam is in thine own eye? Thou hypocrite, first cast out the beam out of thine own eye, and then shalt thou see clearly to cast out the mote out of thy brother's eye." That being said, Thunderfoot is at it again. He tends to always somehow be completely oblivious to the beam in his eye, while at the same time he likes to point out the speck in everyone else's eye, especially Bible-believing Christians. Thunderfoot was again attacking Kent Hovind and accusing him of illegally selling vitamin B17, also known as amygdalin, which is used by many as a dietary supplement to battle cancer. And although the supplement is legal to use within 20 out of the 50 states, it is apparently illegal to transport vitamin B17 across state lines, and this is where Thunderfoot accuses Dr. Hovind of breaking the law. Yet, as far as I can see, Jesus said, "None of you keepeth the law." So who is Thunderfoot to judge? He is accusing Christians of breaking the law, yet when we compare him to God's law, or even man's law for that matter, it's clear to see that Thunderfoot has absolutely no regard for the law himself.
My son's ministry, creationtoday.org, they sell vitamin B17. At 500 milligram, pretty expensive, but that is supposed to work with cancer.
And yeah, he's right. His son's website does indeed offer to sell amygdalin and ship it to any state in the country. And yeah, that's illegal under federal law.
Now, it may be true that the law is in fact being broken by selling vitamin B17 across the state borders. However, the question then becomes at that point, why is vitamin B17 illegal to begin with? And let me allow Thunderfoot to explain why it is illegal.
Amygdalin can be found in the kernels of food plants such as apples, almonds, peaches, cherries, and apricots. Although amygdalin is not toxic itself, hydrogen cyanide liberated as a result of the hydrolysis by acid or enzymes causes acute toxicity. Isolated amygdalin is widely sold as an anti-tumor natural product. However, recent studies have shown the zoogenetic compounds to be dangerously toxic, as well as amygdalin itself as clinically ineffective as a treatment of cancer. Taken orally, amygdalin is potentially lethal because internal beta glycosidase releases hydrogen cyanide upon metabolism. And it's for reasons like this that the Food and Drug Administration banned the interstate selling of amygdalin, also known as Latril and also erroneously known as vitamin B17.
Now, before anyone labels Dr. Hovind as a criminal, let me briefly explain that vitamin B17 is in no way more deadly than any other cancer treatment. For example, chemotherapy is the use of anti-cancer or cytotoxic drugs to destroy cancer cells. Chemotherapy is itself very toxic. In fact, it's so toxic that it's deadly. Dr. Ralph Moss, author of The Cancer Industry, made this incredible statement in regards to chemotherapy. He said, quote, "In the end, there is no proof that chemotherapy actually extends life in the vast majority of cases. And this is the great lie about chemotherapy, that somehow there is a correlation between shrinking a tumor and extending the life of a patient." Dr. Alan Levin, in the book The Healing of Cancer, said this. He said, quote, "Most cancer patients in this country die of chemotherapy. Chemotherapy does not eliminate breast, colon, or lung cancers. This fact has been documented for over a decade, yet doctors still use chemotherapy for these tumors." Now, when we examine the number of deaths attributed to cancer, the number comes to be about 585,000 deaths per year in the U.S. But if we want to know how many patients die due to chemotherapy treatment, there are no statistics on these numbers. When asked how many people have died from chemotherapy, not cancer, naturalnews.com responded, "Where are those statistics? They're nowhere because you can't prove it." For all we know, the death rate for chemotherapy could be anywhere from 500 to 500,000 deaths per year. Nobody knows because every cancer patient treated with chemotherapy can be written off as a victim who finally succumbed to the cancer. I'm sure Thunderfoot can relate to this because his own father has dealt with cancer. So getting treatment for cancer is of itself a risk because you are receiving dangerous toxins into your body. Just one of the drugs used for cancer treatment, called thalidomide, was originally developed by the Nazis. Otto Ambros, who was a German chemist and Nazi war criminal, was alleged to be the scientist who developed thalidomide. He was prosecuted at the Nuremberg trials and spent 8 years in confinement before eventually being released in 1952, and then went to work for the U.S. Army Chemical Corps. Of all the deaths we know that occurred as a result from using vitamin B17, there have been only 17 documented cases worldwide. 6 of those cases came from outside the United States. As for the number of deaths resulting from chemotherapy, the number is ambiguous. It could be astronomical for all we know. As for breaking the law, it's hard to point the finger at a man who is selling a dietary supplement that has next to zero side effects. Unlike thugs on the street selling heroin, Dr. Hovind is trying to help the world with a substance that might have biological benefits. Now, if you want to talk about breaking the law, harassment is considered a serious offense and is punishable by law. The right to be let alone is at the very core of the right to privacy, something that Thunderfoot should be very well aware of.
Specifically, somebody today in a tweet had questioned my bias, and I do have a bias, and I have a bias against people who dishonestly attack other people, and I have a bias against not only the dishonest attacks, but against people who violate privacy in an attempt to trash someone. There are people who are among his close friends who have tried to talk to him, including as late as last night, where they thought they reached some sort of understanding, and then Thunder went immediately on the attack and admitted to having released private information that he shouldn't have had access to. Thunder's response to objections to harassment is to harass them. Well, I don't have time to waste on people who are so desperately in denial after going off the deep end that even when they ask for an explanation, they do not consider the explanation. The guy has gone off the deep end. If, by the way, you're one of those people and you're like, oh, no, this is an infringement on free speech, you're an idiot.
Certainly it would be in Thunderfoot's best interest to know that if you point one finger at someone, you have 3 fingers pointing right back at you. FreeThoughtBlogs.com has made it clear that Thunderfoot's past with maliciously attacking feminists and atheists has not reflected so well on him. They said, quote, Thunderfoot has hacked repeatedly into the Free Thought blog's private emails, stolen them, and forwarded private, confidential information to other people. He is using this to hurt people. Some of the bloggers here do so anonymously for reasons of personal safety, and his actions have threatened their anonymity and the safety of themselves and their loved ones. Can you imagine being at the end of a loaded gun barrel and thinking what is going to happen next? This is the same kind of uncertainty when dealing with a madman who will stop at nothing to defame, criticize, or intimidate another human being with his immense internet influence. I think Jesus was spot on when he warned people in Matthew chapter 7 saying, Judge not that ye be not judged, for with what judgment ye judge, ye shall be judged, and with what measure ye mete, it shall be measured to you again. And why beholdest thou the mote that is in thy brother's eye, but considerest not the beam that is in thine own eye?